Welcome to the Business of Travel, the official podcast of the Global Business Travel Association. I'm Kevin Fleece, Chief Marketing Officer at GBTA, and it's my pleasure to be moderating today's discussion. GBTA has launched a quarterly podcast subseries focused on AI and business travel. In each episode, we bring together experts, thought leaders, and innovators from the fields of AI, travel management, and corporate mobility to share their insights, experiences, and predictions. Today, I have a truly special guest with us, Steve Singh, the visionary founder of Concur, a company that revolutionized travel and expense management. Steve, it is so good to have you here. Thank you for making the time.
Kevin, it's wonderful to see you again.
Thank you. So a little bit more about Steve. His pioneering work at Concur really set the stage for many of the innovations we see today, and his perspective on the intersection of technology and travel is invaluable. He also serves as the executive chairman of Spotnana, Troop, and Center. And Steve and his investor group at Madrona recently acquired Direct Travel, a leading travel management company. So in this episode with Steve, we will delve into why corporate travel is ripe for transformation and how advancements in AI are paving the way for a new era. Steve's going to share his insights on how AI can help us achieve the vision of the perfect trip, where travel is seamless, efficient, and tailored to individual needs. So whether you're a travel industry professional, a frequent business traveler, or simply curious about the future of corporate travel, you don't want to miss this conversation. All right, so with that, Steve, let's get started. So as I mentioned, you and your investor group recently acquired Direct Travel, and you've talked about how Direct Travel will partner closely with three other companies for which you also serve as the executive chairman: Spotnana, which is a travel as a service technology platform; Center, which is a corporate card and expense management platform; and Troop, a group meetings and events company. How does this acquisition, Steve, get us closer to your vision of the perfect trip? And what is your vision of the perfect trip in 2024?
Kevin, let me start with this. Like we spend, all of us, we spend so much of our business life traveling, right? And certainly that can be delightful, right? When you think about travel, it allows us to meet new people. We get to share experiences, we learn, we work on great opportunities. And to be fair, travel is it for me has always been a platform for humanity. It allows us to understand each other and frankly come together in ways that are just not possible in the digital world. To me, it makes travel makes life amazing. Yet the process of travel is not delightful. Let me give you a simple example. I should be able to speak or state that, hey, I need to be in Boston early next week for a particular meeting. And by the way, I need to be back on Thursday night for a dinner meeting in Seattle. Like just that request should book all my travel for me. It should take care of the logistics, schedule all that travel, and put it in place with no further input from me. That would be ideal, right? All of that, by the way, should be done within policy across the spectrum of travel content that's available in the world. And frankly, the suppliers, they should understand that it's you or myself that's actually booking that trip, and they should use all the information they have about us to make that trip experience delightful. In fact, frankly, I would argue the concept of the expense report should just go away.
Mhm.
Right? It disappeared. As I spend, that expense report is actually processed and integrated into the GL with a simple swipe of a card. Of course, none of this actually happens today, right? And I think that our goal ought to be that we want to make the process of travel as delightful as the reasons that we actually travel. And so that's what I mean by the perfect trip. And it's an ambition that will take time to get to. And arguably it will never reach it because the requirement or the standard for what a perfect trip is will keep evolving, which is the way, frankly, life should be. We should always continue push to be better.
Yeah, I like to say to my team constantly, progress over perfection. So as we follow this journey, I'm confident we'll get there. And I know we're going to talk about AI here in a minute and how that's potentially going to make some of this possible. As you were suggesting, just being able to narrate my travel expectations and have the travel be booked. I think it was a Google at I/O conference today, actually talked about that to some extent and the ability to do sort of AI supported travel planning. Um, but you wrote a really interesting blog post last month, which I enjoyed reading very much, and it was entitled uh, Transforming Corporate Travel, an Open Roadmap to Fixing a Broken System. It was really a great read, and I'll make sure we link to it in the show notes. Um, so you've been in the industry for quite a while, let's just say a couple of decades, and you've probably seen
A
some,
few.
yeah, but being generous, a couple of decades. You've seen some technology sea changes. Can you share with us your perspective on the evolution of travel technology
Yeah.
since the founding of Concur, and what are some of the key milestones or advancements that have shaped the industry up to now?
Yeah, Kevin, it'd be an understatement to say that we are living in, frankly, in the golden era of what is possible with technology in the travel industry. Right? What we've seen with cloud computing and frankly artificial intelligence is as big a transformation in the technology landscape as the internet was or as mobile computing was. Right? It is that large. Everything in life will get reimagined and frankly, I think we'll see solutions that fundamentally change the way we do things. Like, look, cloud computing enables us to understand how proteins are folded and how they interact with one another. It allows us to learn in new ways, right? In fact, AI. I mean, we just every incremental release of GPT pushes the bounds on what we can use artificial intelligence for. Right? Even the concept of learning is fundamentally changing. That really hasn't been applied to the travel industry, in my view. And I think companies like Spot9, which is an open platform for what Soros likes to call the plumbing layer of travel. Companies like Center, which is frankly an open platform around the concept of payment workflows, obviously being applied to expense reporting, and open platforms like Troop that is really fundamentally reimagining, I would argue, delivering for the first time a way to plan, book, expense, and manage group travel. Right? That is a completely manual process today. By the way, these platforms, one of the things you can find in common is that they're completely open, they're completely extensible, and everyone can innovate on top of them. Think about how our industry exists today. It's largely legacy technologies that are closed. Unless you work at those companies, it's very hard to actually innovate and add value on top of those platforms. So this coming back to these changes of cloud native architectures or cloud computing and artificial intelligence, they're enabling a set of services or a set of value that can be delivered that you couldn't even do before. And the really interesting thing is going to be how do we how do people embrace this? How do innovators embrace this? How do customers embrace these technology shifts? I can tell you this, the ones that don't, they'll be left behind. The same way that if you go back to the early days of Concur, like we talked about the concept of integrating travel and expense, right? That didn't exist as an integrated service before Concur. And I'm not trying to be arrogant about it, just nobody really tried to integrate it together in a technology model. And so you're going to see transformational changes because of these new technology shifts that you can barely imagine today.
So Steve, let's talk about then TMC space and direct travel. How is direct travel different? How is it leveraging AI and machine learning in its products and services?
Yeah, this is one of the areas that I'm perhaps most excited about. The reality is, direct travel, first of all, it's got an incredible reputation for delivering exceptional client service. And I love that orientation in life. The fact that you care deeply about your customers, that you'll go out of your way to make sure your customers are well served. That mindset combined with data, right? We sit on billions of dollars of travel spend, and more important than spend, the pattern of spend and what that spend is being applied towards and what the behaviors are of each of these travelers. So we sit on a lot of valuable data, and we have this mindset that not only will we provide innovation, but we're going to leverage the innovation of others. In this case, Partner Improvement Center. So if we can take that information, apply artificial intelligence to that, there's two things that you're going to see in the very near term from direct travel. that
Hmm.
will materially improve the travel experience. First of all, we're going to use that information and drive insights that allow us to then take those insights and turn it into action inside a spot, not a troop and center. So, for example, we know when there are flight disruptions. We know when there are change requests that either you need to make or that should be made for you. Well, we should be able to use that information, drive it into an action within Spotnana, and drive effectively a digital change experience, a service experience. That has the benefit of a being a delightful experience for me as a traveler because I don't have to pick up the phone and call someone, and it also has the benefit of actually reducing the cost structure of modern TMCs, right? So the cost structure of direct travel over the next 5 years will be dramatically lower than the cost structure of direct travel over the last 5 years. And that's not because we'll reduce headcount. It's because we're leveraging technology to provide a greater capacity of service and frankly serve more customers with the team that we have in place. So that's one area. The second is that I think the way people will interact with travel is going to fundamentally change. Right? The concept of the application, in my view, 5 years from now, will disappear. Right? It'll be a conversation that you're having, whether it's with your mobile device or your computer. You're going to be saying, "Hey, look, I need to be able to book a trip for this reason, and here's where I need to go, and these are the rough parameters behind it or around that trip." So that this idea of a co-pilot is going to be the way that people interact with travel services, and you'll see those types of innovations coming from direct travel in the next few quarters. And then, frankly, there's a lot of other innovation. By the way, those innovations are just focused on the traveler. When you think about it, this is an ecosystem. This is
Yeah.
an ecosystem of suppliers, and the travelers. How do we provide? How do we leverage artificial intelligence to actually connect those experiences, those interactions between the supplier and the traveler?
Yeah, you talked about how um, the travel experience will likely change to the benefit of the traveler. Let's talk a little bit about, um, if we can, the travel manager and the travel
Yeah.
buyer and the person responsible for duty of care and managing that travel program and managing spend. Um, because I think there are benefits, both the kind of the customer facing benefits and then kind of, I'll just say, like the back office benefits as well. Can you talk a little bit about that, if you have any sort of vision or specific examples around how this could benefit the person managing the travel, making the arrangements, or managing the policy and the program?
I think the nature of the job of the travel manager is going to transform a fair bit over the next, half decade or so. And today, if you think about the role of the travel manager, they focused on negotiating with suppliers. They focus on making sure that the services around a particular trip provided by TMC are as wonderful as they can be. They focus on duty of care, which look at this by its very definition can be disruptive and a scramble to actually provide duty of care. In my view, what's going to happen with modern travel services is that the nature of how you build a policy is going to be AI driven. The nature of how you negotiate with suppliers is going to be more driven by individual spend than it is by group, policies and group spend. I would argue that duty of care will become something that is more automatically or proactively reaching out to the travel manager and saying, here's where we have disruptions, here's the people impacted by it, here's the recommended services to help those travelers. Right? So the travel manager's role becomes much more strategic and much more sophisticated with tools that are actually designed to serve them and allow them to do their jobs better. But today, I mean, ask any travel manager if this is a disruption event, it's a mad scramble within the travel department to find any way to help the travelers that are impacted. The reality is we have all the information needed to be able to help not just the traveler, but the travel manager serve those travelers. And the fact that's not delivered in a proactive model with recommendations, with insights, with actions is simply a failure of the existing legacy tech stacks and frankly a failure of innovation.
I think that's a really compelling message, and one that I think we're starting to hear more frequently because look, there is sort of some general concern among many travel managers, a lot of uncertainty around AI. How is this going to disrupt my job? And the way you sort of described it as a co-pilot, as your kind of ride or die technology assistant that's going to elevate the role and make them more strategic, I think is a really key message.
Yeah, Kevin, I think that anyone who thinks that AI is going to take their job isn't giving themselves enough credit. Like the reality is, there's incredible opportunities for us as human beings. It of course is going to be demanding that we continue to push on our own learning and our own education and frankly what we demand of ourselves. But I would argue our capacity to serve our customers, whoever they may be, is actually going to increase. Right? We're going to be able to provide better services to our clients, whoever we serve, than we could ever do before. And that to me is the real beauty of AI. Right? How do you do a lot of the legwork for me and allow me to take the actions that I want to take? And frankly, give me the suggestions on here's the actions.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're starting to see little green shoots, so to speak, bubbling up with the use of AI as we, as an association, convene travel buyers and suppliers around the globe. Everything from big corporates putting a chatbot in front of their travel policy, enabling their travelers to run a quick query and just ask questions. Why do I have to email the travel manager if I can just query the policy? To more sophisticated adoption of adapting the policy more dynamically based on what's actually happening with my travelers themselves, how we're traveling, how we're negotiating fares and rates. So we're just at the outset of this. Um, and so that's I'll open up the spectrum and just sort of ask you to think about a little bit. We've talked a little bit about, very little bit about corporate travel impacts, the benefits to the traveler. Um, as you think about the rest of the continuum, it could be in the group space, it could be in payments. I mean, as you think about sort of like the top three areas across your portfolio, where do you see AI specifically providing the most impact?
Yeah, I want to touch on that, Kevin. I just want to hit one other point that I think is important in the
Sure.
broader question you just addressed. Look, I think not only are companies like Spotnana, Troop, and Center innovating in their respective markets, I think the TMC market is going to evolve dramatically over the
Mhm.
next 5 to 10 years. The nature of what a TMC is will be different. The number of TMCs that exist will change dramatically, and I would argue it'll actually contract to be a fewer number of TMCs. What those TMCs deliver is going to be radically different than what's delivered today. Today, most TMCs say, here's the 18 choices of products that I can deliver to you. Do you want booking product number one or booking product number two or number three or whatever it might be? Instead of, I want to deliver a delightful travel experience for you at the best value proposition possible. And I want to make sure that you, as the corporate customer, as the traveler, get to focus on what's important to you, which is your actual reason for that trip. That just that simple statement will change the nature of what TMCs will do. And I would argue that TMCs that adopt modern, open, extensible platforms and build on top of that are going to be the TMCs that lead the way for the next 10, 20 years. So that I don't want anyone to underestimate the impact of that. I would look, I have a ton of respect for every TMC that's out there, but just as you know, every company in the world has to keep innovating and driving more value in order to be relevant. The same is true for every TMC. And the level of technology transformation that's happening in travel, in expense reporting, in group travel is as big as I've ever seen. And I've been in this industry for at least 30 years now. And so this is a transformative moment for our industry. Now, let's take a step back from there. What else needs to happen? Right. And so in my view, look, we are in the fortunate position that we've invested now in four of the pillars that I think are important in this industry. And look, I'm sure I'll be wrong, and there'll be five or six or seven or eight different pillars. Who knows? But there's one more that I think is very, very important. The reality is that what we're seeing today is the concept of NDC is being embraced by airlines and hoteliers around individual travel. And I think what needs to happen still is we need to see more innovation in how do I how do I get that content, whether it's for individual travel or group content or group travel, how do I get that content and actually present it to the buyer in a real time model? I want this particular room at that particular hotel. I want to check in at 8:45 because my flight lands at 7:30. I want to check out 3 days later at 2:45 in the afternoon. And by the way, the experiences I'd like while I'm there is I want to be able to text you and to the hotelier and say, look, I would like this for lunch or dinner or whatever it might be. And by the way, I need a car service that's actually going to pick me up at this time, to take me to this location. None of that is easy to do inside of a travel experience, in large part because some of this content is not available and all of it is not integrated in a way that allows that experience to be simple, no matter where that experience originates. That can't be done without open systems, without open platforms, without extensible systems, and a mindset that says, "Hey, I want to be able to be open, and I want to be able to allow anybody to innovate on this." So my sense is that that fifth pillar, you're going to see innovation around hotel property management systems and CRM systems that will transform what is today 40, 50-year-old technology stacks. And so I think that pillar still has to be kind of cultivated and innovated upon.
Yeah, NDC is it's been what 10 to 12 years in the offing to get us to this point, and was just at one of our chapter events in Minneapolis last week, and there was a great presentation on NDC was given there. And look, I think there are more than 40 airlines that are using some version of the NDC standard right now. Some are using multiple standards. Um, and so, but it's a huge step in the right direction in terms of airline retailing, and to see the same thing happen on the hotel side would be phenomenal. What needs to happen in order for that openness to become a reality? Is the onus on the all of the different intermediaries working with the suppliers directly to make that happen? How does this open movement actually happen, Steve?
Yeah, so obviously that's a risky move for anybody who's investing in technology, and in order for this to happen, a lot of things have to come together. Not the least of which is, first of all, NDC content needs to be as easy to service as GDS content is. And to be fair and transparent, that hasn't been true for the last
Mm-hmm.
15, 20 years. So that's number one. And I think Spot On has done an amazing job here. Number two is we have to accept that there can't be 80 different standards for a type of content. And and so I think that one of the things that has to happen is the providers or the innovators in this space have to open up their platforms and allow anybody to consume that set of services. And that's the mindset that Spot Number takes here. That's the mindset that Troop takes, mindset that Center takes. And if we're really transparent, that is not the mindset of our industry. We try to innovate and then control that innovation in a way that others can't benefit as much as we might be able to benefit. And that ultimately is a disservice to the traveler, it's a disservice to the suppliers. And to be fair, those two parties, the traveler and the people the suppliers that serve them, are the most important elements of the ecosystem. The rest of us are literally there to serve those two constituents. And so that mindset of openness is critical. The next is, look, you got to get to scale, right? Once you get to scale, it's easy for others to adopt, right? There's always the early adopters, and then there's Main Street, and then kind of the final wave of adopters. And so we have to allow enough customers access to this, get enough customers to use these new standards or these new tools that, by the way, delivers a better experience that allows everyone else to jump on the bandwagon. And that's frankly the role of not just innovators, it's the role of investors, right? I mean, you and I know this. We've done this for a long, long time. When Concur was innovating, we were losing money for the first several years. And the reason we were willing to do that is we knew that if we could get far enough along in that product, if we can get enough people to use it, that eventually the whole world would end up adopting that set of services. And that turned out to be a true statement. Concur is a massive business today. That same thing is going to happen with standards like NDC. The first thing is they have to be modernized to a level where they really meet the needs of suppliers and where they meet the needs of the travel management companies that consume these services and where they deliver a better experience to the end traveler. And that's happening.
Well said. So, Steve, looking ahead, what do you envision as the future of travel? You've touched on it a little bit, but particularly in the terms of technology and AI, fast forward however many years you'd like and kind of paint a picture for us of where we're all headed here.
Yeah, look, this first of all, I'm excited about where we can be in the next 5 or 10 years, right? Anytime there's transformational shifts in technology, there's always massive opportunities to innovate, to delight customers, and frankly, reimagine the way that things should work. And I would argue this is literally the most exciting time for the travel industry since, frankly, the dawn of the internet and mobile devices. So the question is, all right, well, what does this look like? And I think it starts with a couple of things that I think all of us have to solve for it. And frankly, the way we actually leverage AI, right? But it can be very simple. Like we have to solve for simple things like understand me, understand who I am as a traveler, right? Proactively serve me. Not just by the way, not just in my corporate trips, but in my personal trips. Why doesn't my data follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Right. The reality is the blend between corporate and personal trips continues to blur, as it should. Right? These are all solvable problems, and they're going to change the nature of not just our industry, but frankly, the solutions that are embraced in the industry. The other piece I would put out there is that the concept of applications, like we should get comfortable that applications might go away. Right? I'll give you a simple example. And let's go outside of travel for just a second. If you want to create a presentation, a, let's just say a Google Slides or PowerPoint presentation, I would argue in the next few years, you'll simply state, I'd like to create a presentation that covers the following three topics. Here's a whole bunch of data that's sitting in my online or cloud drive. Leverage that data and think about how I can use information that might be more broad industry information and present it in a format that is I don't know, whimsical or it might be very business oriented, whatever it might be. You can see that artificial intelligence could actually create that presentation for you and deliver it to you in a matter of seconds. Now your job is to simply make a few edits to it. So the nature of that application is going to change radically. Why wouldn't that be true in corporate travel, in consumer travel? And that's the way I would ask us all to think about it and imagine. Like the nature of how we interact with travel services is going to change radically. That can't happen though, unless you're willing to embrace the core plumbing layer of travel, the plumbing layer of payments, the plumbing layer of group travel has to change. And the beauty is it is changing. And to me, this is the part I get the most excited about. Is like there are innovators like Naveen, like Dennis, like Sarosh, like Crystal, who are taking a bet on what the future might look like, and they're going off and trying to create that. It would end up being a far better travel experience for those customers than it is for the existing customers. So, like, I know I'm rambling, and I apologize, but I think that the companies that don't embrace these technologies are going to get completely utterly left behind. And it's not because of any other reason than the needs of the individual traveler, the needs of the companies that they work for, the needs of suppliers is evolving. And the technology is keeping pace to allow those needs to be met. And so the question is who's going to embrace those technologies, who's going to actually solve for those problems.
Yeah, I love that vision of the future, a travel system that understands me, that proactively serves me with no user experience per se, that's conversational at its heart. Um, and in a perfect world, and I think I put this out on LinkedIn maybe year and a half ago when ChatGPT launched, anticipates my travel needs. Doesn't just
Yeah,
react
I
to the
mean,
data I have, but it knows my calendar, it knows my preferences, it
exactly.
knows when my PTO is coming up. Like, why do I even need to give it any information?
Kevin, just a simple example of that. Let's say you and I are interacting over email, and we agree that hey, we need to get together at on this topic, roughly in this window. Well, why can't that email interchange actually go understand my calendar, understands my travel policy, understands what other things are around that particular date, and automatically book all that stuff, automatically put it into my calendar, automatically handle logistics for me. Like there's no reason that can't happen. And that is all in a simple email exchange. Entirely possible with today's technologies, right? That will happen. I guarantee you within the next 1 to 2 years, that will happen.
I think you're right. And I think that another knock-on effect of that, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, what about search as a user experience? I mean, what happens to what, five blue links on a page? How important is that 3 years from now? If the system knows my needs, knows my preferences, understands me and my intent and my sentiment, I wouldn't have to search in that scenario because the system is going to curate and deliver a set of suggestions that I can then choose to act on or not. Is that how you see it?
Search becomes an interactive experience based upon the context of what I'm doing and in the areas that I'm actually focused on. It's a very different. I mean, the simple search of a box where you type in information, that's not going to go away. There's always needs for that, but it'll evolve to be there's a different type of search, and that frankly is the higher value type of search. And that you're already seeing happen, right? I mean, you think about how you and I, learn about topics today. My first place I go to is ChatGPT. Right? That's literally the first place that I go to when I want to try to understand anything. In the past, it was a Google search. Well, again, concepts like this, artificial intelligence is such a pervasive and large impact in our world that it's going to transform pretty much every business process that we kind of deal with today or run today, and that's a good thing. The reality is, if these processes can be better, if they can be lower cost, if they can be more predictive or anticipate my needs, boy, my life gets simpler. Right? I can do more with the time that I have, which is fundamentally the most valuable commodity I have.
Exactly. And, since you use ChatGPT as your default app, ChatGPT 4.0, the one they just announced this week, absolutely mind blowing in terms of its upgrade. I don't know if you saw the demo.
I did think about how learning is going to evolve, right? I mean, what will that impact? What will GPT-4? What will that impact be in our education system? This is like the possibilities here are incredible. Like the way that I now have grandchildren and obviously nieces and nephews, but the way that my nieces and nephews, my grandchildren will learn, night and day different than the way I learned.
Yeah, for those of you who didn't see the demo, go watch it. It was truly astounding. Those of us who carry iPhones are used to Siri, a single voice, very kind of neutral. It's been around for multiple years. What I saw in the demo was a personalized assistant with a voice and a persona that's adapted to you as an individual, that with the camera on can actually identify your um, your sort of how you're feeling. Is this person excited? Are they upset? Are they happy? Imagine the impacts of that for a customer experience environment where now the camera
Incredible.
knows that when Steve calls, he's already green, meaning this is going to be a positive call, or he's screaming red, and we can tell based on his emotional prompts and the kind of temper how that's going to go. So it was, to your point, going to revolutionize education and consumer experience and everything else. It was really wild to watch.
Yeah.
Um, so
This is literally the most exciting time for our
yeah,
travel industry that I've been a part of in my entire career. The opportunities here are incredible. We have to have the courage to actually embrace these opportunities. We have to have the mindset that our job is to make the experience for our customers and for their employees better. and for the suppliers who serve them. We have to embrace that mindset. And look, there are plenty of people who are embracing it. Like every one of the leaders that I mentioned earlier, they're embracing this. Like they are living in the golden era of travel.
Great. I think that was, you kind of answered what was going to be my last question, which is how do we embrace AI and technology and personalization to really evolve and advance this industry together as a group? And you've touched on that with the amazing leadership team you have with your portfolio companies. But for everyone else who's out there listening, and they, could be someone in sales and marketing, it could be a travel buyer, it could be someone in procurement, it could be an executive assistant, or it could be a business traveler. What are your closing thoughts and advice for those individuals? How can they start to think about embracing AI in their daily lives and as it pertains to travel?
Yeah, obviously that's a little harder question to ask or answer just because there's such a broad spectrum of ways we can embrace AI. I think that the thing I would ask us always to be grounded on is our job is always to imagine the way the world should work, independent of what's good for us. Because if you do that, what's amazing is you really try to solve for your end customer. And if you solve for the end customer in a way that they're delighted, you're going to do wonderfully in that experience, whether it's as an individual contributor or if you're building a company, whatever it might be. That's number one. Number two is we have to embrace the fact that artificial intelligence will actually can, but in my view, it will actually make the experience and the way we interact in travel dramatically better. Either we embrace it or the folks we serve, our customers and travelers, they're going to embrace it and move there without you. And so my feeling is you have to embrace this. You have to actually innovate. You have to have this mindset of our job is to delight our customers. And if you can do that, boy, the opportunities here are endless.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Steve. So listen, as we wrap up this amazing conversation, and thank you again, it is clear that this whole landscape is on the brink of a monumental transformation. I mean, we've explored the exciting potential of AI and revolutionizing the way we plan, book, and experience business travel in a way that should certainly move us much closer to the vision of the perfect trip. As you said, this is the golden age of technology and innovation in travel. I completely agree with you. I think Steve's insights here today have underscored the necessity of innovation and the incredible opportunities that lie ahead, the importance of openness, that organizations embrace openness as they architect these new solutions. So AI is here. It's not just a tool, but a catalyst for more efficient, enjoyable, and productive travel experiences. So I want to thank you again, Steve, for sharing your vision and your expertise with us. It's been a pleasure.
Wonderful to see you again, my friend.
And to our listeners, we hope this discussion has sparked some new ideas and excitement for the future of corporate travel. You've been listening to The Business of Travel, the official podcast of the Global Business Travel Association. For more information about GBTA and its work, visit gbta.org and be sure to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, safe travels and keep innovating. Thank you all very, very much.